Hi guys, Dominica, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about feminism. I don't know why saying that makes me feel like we're going to talk about something controversial, because I don't think feminism should be anything controversial at all. Even looking up the definition, I'm gonna put it over here. Feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes. And I don't even know why that's so controversial, but when I think about people in my everyday life, there's so many women who don't want to be called feminists, and there's a lot of men who are poking jokes at feminists. So in this video I just want to share some thoughts with you, have a discussion topics for us, and I really hope that we can have a nice discussion in comments and you can tell me what you think. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also hit notification button so I know to make more of that type of videos. And also my social media channels are over here. If you wanna see what I'm doing on other platforms, feel very welcome to check me out. And my next points in this video are just me being a young woman navigating feminism and what being a woman is in a modern world. So I know that some of those stuff may seem really silly, especially if you're an activist and you're fighting for women's rights in other countries, but they were not silly for me when I was 16, 18, 21, 22. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, did we devalue motherhood and those roles that traditionally were women's roles according to gender norms? It seems that being able to work, provide money is the only thing that really matters, and the roles that women traditionally were doing and are still doing, like childbirth, the whole thing of growing a human being and then raising that human being for so many years, that we devalued that role fully, or creating a home environment for those children and family. Because I know that a lot of feminists, a lot of women are looking at women who, instead of working, just to stay home with their children. I even know some of my friends, they have 4 children, and they say that people look at them really weird, that why would you have 4? That if you have 1, then why would you want to have an only child? You have 2, great, 3, okay, but 4, that's when it goes too far. It feels right now that feminist is just doing the things that men were always doing. But what about the aspects of our, I guess, nature, that women are the ones getting pregnant and giving birth and breastfeeding? And I don't mean that every woman should have children. I think you're just as much of a woman if you decide not to have children, never to have any. It's not about that, but I think for many women, biologically, naturally, we want to have children. And I don't know why, at which point we decided that it doesn't actually provide value. And that makes me wonder if society's ever really appreciated women and motherhood. Because back in the day, even when women were staying home with children, were men appreciating what they were doing for them, for what they were doing for their children and for their family and future generations? I think that was also a big issue with that. It's not that we had this harmonious society. Okay, women are home cooking, taking care of the house, children, men are working, and it's this very nice old machine. I think many men weren't appreciating what women were doing for them. And that was also the thing with domestic violence. Like, so many women were being beaten up by their husbands, and then children were being beaten up by their husbands. Of course, not all of them, not all of men were bad, but I think there's just a lot of things that it's hard for us to remember because we're a few generations later. But I do think that homes looked way worse back in the day. So appreciating motherhood and sacrifice that women make to have children maybe is something we should all appreciate in our society, and maybe that also should be a big part of feminism. Appreciating the woman thing that women's body are doing, creating children, and then we're raising them. That should be really valued in our society. I think right now we are supposed to work just as much as men do, but men back in the day, when they were done with work, they were coming back home, had a meal on their table, and were doing nothing for the rest of the day. And right now both women and men are working, and then we come back home, and then there's children, and there's cleaning we have to do and cooking, and it still falls mainly on women. And I'm just thinking, like, did we do something wrong at some point? Because we're working just as men do, but then we come back home and take care of children and run of the house, and that doesn't really feel like we won with that one. We're doing what we were doing back in the day plus working. And I think that's the part where I don't fully agree that men and women should split everything 50-50 financially. I think if you are 2 people who don't want to have children, then I think it's perfectly fine to split everything 50-50. You can split things financially 50-50, then you can take care of the house, which one of you is cleaning what, cooking when. You can split everything that quite evenly. But I think the moment when you decide to have children, that's where you cannot really be even about things anymore. anymore, because men cannot share the burden of pregnancy, childbirth with us. We are the ones being pregnant for 9 months with all sort of symptoms, and then giving birth, which I've heard is very painful and traumatic for many. Then nursing, breastfeeding is also something that women do. And also pregnancy and childbirth is not just during that 9 months. Afterwards, your body basically pays the price for you having that baby. I'm not a mother, but I know so many women who have different sort of health issues which were caused by pregnancy or deficiencies. Actually, it's so crazy when you have those images of how the baby looks like inside of the woman's body, how her internal organs are pushed together, and I imagine all of that being very hard. And it's something you cannot split with your husband. You cannot tell him, okay, I'm gonna carry the baby from Monday to Wednesday, you Thursday to Sunday, and then we switch. No, it's all on you. Same the childbirth. He's not gonna share the pain with you. It's you, and it's your body paying the price. So I do think it's okay that the man pays more, and I actually prefer it. And is that me being a bad feminist? Because I think we associated feminism so much with splitting everything financially. And it's same when I go on the first dates with men now. I always offer to pay, and I don't mind paying for myself, but I find it nice if the man insists he wants to pay for me. And not because I cannot pay for myself, because I can, but I just think it's very attractive when a man wants to care for me. If I'm looking for a partner in life, if he's being caring towards me, if he wants to pay for my dinner, if he wants to open the doors for me, make sure that I'm warm, give me his jacket, pick me up from the house and drop me off, I think it's very attractive. And I think that's a very masculine energy he's providing towards me, and I love that so much. And then, am I being a bad feminist for liking that? And I think that although I think we should be equal, we're also different, and that's very important to recognize, just as I talked about the pregnancy and childbirth. But at the same time, I'm thinking just about our physical boundaries. Average women is less strong than average men, and there's a lot of women who are really strong, who are working out, and those women could beat up majority of men easily. But naturally, men are stronger than women. I remember actually one time when I was here in Denmark, there was one guy in my student dorm when I was living, and he was a big guy, he was working out, and I had this heavy box I had to carry downstairs, and I left my room and I saw him. So I was like thinking in my head like, oh great, it's really heavy for me, I can do it, but it's really heavy and I'm really uncomfortable. And then I saw him, okay, the guy who works out, for him that's probably nothing. So I asked him for help with the box, and he took the box and then he said, oh, it's not that heavy, and he gave it back to me. And he said like, I will open the doors for you. So he was opening the doors for me as I was walking downstairs with this really heavy box. And not every woman would be less strong than you, but I am less strong than you. Can you just please help me with it? But in that moment I felt like I was, I think, what, 22, and I was thinking, am I a bad feminist? Because I guess as a feminist I should be showing him how I can do everything just as he can. I should be carrying this really heavy box, be miserable and be like, no, don't help me, I can do it myself, I can do everything myself. And that brings me to the point that we are different. Our bodies are structured differently. We have different organs in our body. We have different needs. And for example, I know that women need way more iron, like iron as their diet, because of our periods. So our diets are different. And that also brings me to a big part of it, menstruation. We menstruate, okay? Men don't do that. And for us, once per month, we are freaking bleeding from between our legs, okay? That's something that we do and men don't. And it does affect us. And I remember when I was younger, there was a lot of sexist jokes being made to my family around that. Each time I was angry or upset, my dad would be like, oh, are you about to get your period? And I remember I always felt that I have to prove to men especially that I don't change at all because of my menstrual cycle. That I'm perfectly fine the entire time and I just get my period and it's nothing. That when I'm in school and I'm dying out of cramps, I might take a painkiller pill. Actually, no. When I was younger, I was under the assumption that I shouldn't be taking painkillers because I should be strong enough to handle it because it's not a big deal and it doesn't make me any different than men. So there was always this suffering, because I mean it is very painful, but in silence, that I cannot talk about it to people, especially to men, that I cannot let them know that I'm actually, being in physical pain right now because of my cramps, because I have my period. Because then they would be like, oh, you're overreacting, it's not that bad. Or if there are any men watching, I know they're describing period cramps is so hard, and they have those simulators and stuff. But I think for me, period cramps is like, imagine you have an organ in your body, and from inside of it you feel really huge pressure being applied. You don't really feel like your organ is going to tear apart, but it just feels like all the walls, internal walls of it, are just being really, really pushed. Imagine that was happening to like your liver or something, you know, that you just feel this organ internally in your body. Like, then also other stuff are happening. You're getting a headache, you're getting a nausea, you might have to go to the toilet because everything down there is connected. That's a little bit in my eye, but I think a lot of women have that when you get your period, it also means you have to be on the toilet because it's coming out of you, like out of the faucet. Now at this point in my life, I'm like, I do feel pain when I'm on my period. I do feel cramps when I'm on my period. Now that I talk about it to you, like in front of camera, I do feel like it's actually kind of feministic to talk about periods and to embrace it and to tell men, I'm in pain, leave me alone. You wouldn't be here if you were in the same pain as I was. And the next point, men hating. And I know a lot of people associate feminism with men hating, but do we hate men? And you know what? It makes me wonder, this whole idea of feminist women hating men came from misogynistic men directly, because that's the sources where I hear about women hating men. When I'm with other women, none of us were ever really that displeased with men, and all of my female friends also had their male friends and boyfriends and stuff. I think the whole idea of women hating men comes from men who struggle in modern society and they need someone to blame, and the easiest is to blame women for their problems. I think many men find feminism to be a threat for them because women have higher standards, because we can take care of ourselves for now, we can make our own money, we can divorce our husbands or actually never get married if we don't ever want to get married and have family this way. There are some men being really threatened by it, and I think honestly that's why, because they have to step up in many ways. Because right now, if women are also working, providing financially, then they should also be doing more home and with children. I think a lot of our gender issues come from the fact that as a heterosexual people, we mainly experience other gender through dating. Growing up, most of my experiences with men is because I was dating them, and I think for many men it's the same with women. And that's where the knowledge of women comes from. So for me, being in toxic relationships, being with men who maybe weren't treating me the nicest, it was the easier to just complain about men and how men are horrible. And it's the same for those men who complain about women. It's the easiest to just find everything wrong about them and why there are things wrong with them. That's feminism that made them wrong. But mainly it's because you have your own issue with yourself. I can definitely tell I had really bad daddy issues. So I was dating men who were just really horrible. But I didn't know it at the time. I thought they are the greatest because I had issues. So then my overall image of men was negative, because based on those few negative experiences, I was making the idea that all men are like that. And now that I have more male friends, I can see them treating their girlfriends so nicely and being able to have with those men really nice conversations and just be realizing, okay, they're actually human just like me and I can talk to them about different things. That makes me realize that, well, it's not all men that are a problem. I was just dating shitty men because of my own issues. And I think it's also important to mention here that as women, we sort of grow up with everyone telling us we should be scared of men in a certain extent. I remember growing up, my dad would always tell me, Dominika, please don't walk home alone at night. I will come pick you up. I'll give you money for a taxi. Just please don't walk home alone at night because it's not safe. So hearing that from the man that I was the closest with, my dad, that I should be scared of other men. He himself was telling me that I should be scared of other men because I might get assaulted. And then as an adult, you realize that actually women get assaulted quite often. I just looked it up. World Health Organization says that 1 in 3 women worldwide have been subjected to either physical and or sexual intimate partner violence or non-partner sexual violence in their lifetime. And that's quite crazy that 1/3 women would experience that. And I think even more women experience catcalling or forms of verbal sexual harassment. And if I walk alone on the street and it's dark, if I see a woman behind me, I'm like, okay, there's a woman walking. But if I see men behind me, I immediately have this reaction of, okay, is there anyone else walking on the street? And it's not even something that I'm actively thinking about, but it's this instinct of, okay, is there anyone else on the street? Okay, there's more people over there, so I should be safe, because if that man attacks me, they should be able to notice that. I've read somewhere that men are the most scared that women will laugh at them, and women are the most scared that men will murder them. And that's true in many ways, when so many of my friends actually actually have the location on their Apple location when they go on dates, so their friends can see that where they are and that they left place safely. I often had guys on apps inviting me for the first date, for a wine to their place. I guess like trying to put me, but that's not the point. But my first thought is I cannot go to the guy's place, then I don't know, because I might get assaulted. So I also think that's where a lot of negative feelings towards men come from many women, and I do understand how horrible it must be for those really nice guys out there that would never think about assaulting any woman. But as a woman, when you meet a man for the first time or you see him walking behind you on the street, you have no idea what his intentions are, and there is a chance his intention might be to hurt you, and that's something that's always running in the back of our heads. I think as a society, if we're just blaming the other gender for everything, we're going nowhere. And I think if you claim to be feminist but you hate all men, then we're not any better than those misogynistic men who hate all women. It's just because we're born with different genitalia, we're on the opposite side. But if those misogynistic men were women, they would be those feminists, those women hating men. And that brings me to the next aspect of it, being feminine. There's just a lot of comments and opinions that feminists cannot be feminine. I like to put makeup on, even right now I have makeup on. I like to put nice jewelry on, and I was thinking to myself, what am I doing it for? Am I doing that to impress men right now? I don't really think so. I don't really count on that. I just think I want to look good towards everyone. It's not that I'm trying to seduce anyone, but I just want to be perceived as good looking, right? That's why I'm doing that, and that makes me feel more confident and good when I have nice clothes on and makeup and do my hair and all of those things. And I had a period of time where I was thinking, am I being a bad feminist for that? Prefer to shave my armpits? Is that making me a bad feminist? And I think that's sort of the key to being feminine as a feminist, that you can wear sexy dresses, you can wear heels, put makeup on, but I think the whole idea of the feminism is like not to judge women who don't want to do that. Why do we have to shave our armpits? We don't have to do that if we don't want to do that. And that's where a lot of men like to bash feminists, that they become less feminine because they become feminists. That's also maybe like an issue with all of those issues with feminists. As a woman, I don't want to have a man telling me what to do. I don't want my boyfriend to be telling me what to do. But at the same time, if he thinks that I look nicer with my armpits shaved, then it shouldn't be a bad thing for me to want to be attractive for him. Because it also works the other way around. If he's doing hair the way you don't like it or wearing clothes you don't like, then you also tell him that. So I think the difference is about carrying the opinion of people around you. Then if your boyfriend tells you that he's more attracted to you if you're shaved, then you can shave to be more attracted to him. But if there is crack 18230 under YouTube video telling women to shave their armpits because they look like monkeys, then that's an issue, because why do you care about that? But at the same time, you shouldn't do anything that's against you. If I had a guy telling me that he wants me to be blonde because he likes blondes more, I wouldn't do that, because I'm not going to change that about myself. If you want to be with a blonde woman, you should go ahead and be with someone else. But if I'm with my partner, and sometimes I'm shaved, sometimes, the hair grow out a little bit, I'm not fully shaved, and he tells me, it's also like I think a lot how they tell you things, right? Because if he says like, oh, I actually prefer when you're shaved, then I'll be like, oh, okay, I can shave. But if they are like, oh, you're so disgusting, you look like a monkey because you didn't shave, then I'll be like, bye. Oh my gosh, that was a lot of talk about shaving. With all of those issues, there's so much like small things in it that is not about the whole generalization, but it's about who's speaking to you and in what way, and if it's something that is okay with you or not. I think there are like those three components in that. And that also brings me down to body image. I remember as a teenage girl, early 20s girl, I always cared about likes under my Instagram posts. I remember when I was 19, I would post a photo and then I would constantly reshare to see how many likes it gets. And if it wasn't enough likes, I would delete the picture and be like, oh my gosh, I hope no one saw this because that's so embarrassing. And it's the same when I added, for example, pictures in bikini on my Instagram. I knew it's going to get more likes, and I always enjoyed that attention. I enjoyed, honestly speaking to you, I enjoyed the likes I was getting for publishing my body. But at the same time, I was feeling like, am I being a bad feminist right now? Because I know a lot of those likes and comments are men just salivating over my body. So maybe I'm being a bit feminist for that. I've read Emily Ratajkowski's book, My Body, which I think is really good explaining these thought processes. But the whole thing with sex appeal is so tricky because we want to be sexy, right? Like I often wear my cleavage, tight jeans, I want to show my curves and I feel good. But at the same time, I know a lot of men will like it and I don't think I necessarily do it for those men, but I just enjoy, I guess, being more valued. I think maybe that's like a society thing that I know women and men see me now as more attractive. And that also made me think, am I being like a bad feminist right now? And I think now, being older, I've just accepted that if I want to do something, I will do it. And I don't really care as much about the others. It's same. If I had a picture on Instagram, it doesn't get many likes. I don't really care anymore because I like it. So it's the same when I post a picture of myself in bikini now. I'm like, I like it, I don't really care. And there's also liking girly things. When I was younger, I felt that liking girly things makes you conform to all of those gender norms and old school norms. I really love cooking. I really like being in the kitchen and cooking, but then I felt like, oh, that's like a maybe bad hobby for me to have because I'm conforming to gender norms that women just want to be in the kitchen cooking. And I like to putting my makeup on, like a very girly things. Or I remember, am I being a bad feminist for watching Love Island and shows like that? Because they're always there and they're like bikinis running around. So I felt that, oh, I should have more like intelligent hobbies. I should be more interested in politics or economical issues. But now I'm just like, I love Taylor Swift. I love her music so much. Men can make fun of me, whatever, I don't care. I like it. And that brings me to the last part of this video, women supporting women. As a woman, we're always supposed to support each other and be there for each other. And I think that can also get kind of misconstrued sometimes. I understand where it comes from. With motherhood, there's a lot of moms shaming other moms and just pointing out what they do wrong, and they don't do that to men. Or also, for example, if there's another girl, I don't know, wearing a tight dressed heels, we would like slut shame her because she's dressed differently. So you understand the whole concept that as a woman we shouldn't be at each other's throats just because we're women. But I think at the same time we're also different people and we're allowed to not like each other. I can definitely tell, like me being a young woman in my 20s, that if me and another girl like the same guy, we're not going to be friends. It would be so fake for me to be coming up to her and be like, hi girl, how are you? How is this? How is that? While I know we like the same guy. But I think the main thing is not to shame each other and bash each other, because I think that's something that maybe we were, doing in the past, that when you know that this girl likes the same guy, then you're gonna talk that she's fat, that you've heard she's easy, that she's like this, like that, la la. So I think the whole concept is that it's okay that there are women in your life you're not going to be friends with, or your interests aren't aligned in a moment, you're not gonna be close. I think it's perfectly fine. Just because Jake decided to date that girl instead of you, it freaking sucks. You're not gonna like her, but it doesn't necessarily mean to talk shit about her. And I think that's everything for today's video. I don't quite know exactly what I talked about and why that video wasn't as structured as my other videos, but it's just something that I honestly struggle with a lot in recent years, with this wanting to be feminist but at the same time wanting to be a feminine one in a relationship and wanting to be with a guy who's like more of a provider. And there's like a lot of stuff in my head where I'm like figuring out, am I being a bad feminist right now? And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Again, my social media, you're very welcome to visit me here. And for now, I hope that you like this video and hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.